Light is made up of photons, which are particles of energy that have no mass and move at the speed of light. These photons travel in waves which look like this. The distance between each wave, this to this, this to this, this to this, and so on, is called a wavelength. Higher wavelengths have lower energy and lower wavelengths have higher energy. Colors are determined by the length of each wave. Now, if you look at this diagram right here, you can see that levels that are around 380 nanometers apart are visible to the human eye as violet, 450 is indigo, 475 to 500 is blue, 525 to 550 is green, 575 is yellow, 650 is orange, and up to 750 is red. Now, wavelength levels 379 and below are invisible to the human eye. So down here, this is invisible, and 751 and above are also invisible to the human eye. Light has a few properties. It can be reflected, absorbed, or transmitted. When light is reflected off something, it is bounced off of it. That is shown in this diagram right here. And also, when this sun shines light on this grass, the grass takes in this red light and this blue light, but rather than taking in the green light, it reflects it off, and that is why we see the grass as green. Absorbed means that it is taken in, like how every color is absorbed into black, as shown in this diagram right here. Now, grass, as we have been using, best absorbs wavelengths that are 450 nanometers apart. So over here, which is indigo, and around 650 to 750 nanometers apart. So this area right here, which is orange and red. Now finally, transmitted means that light travels through an object. One example of this is a window. So let me just draw a window right here. Very artistic. Now the sun, that is down here, shines light through this window, and the light is transmitted through the window so that people on the other side can see. So they're happy. Prisms transmit light in a weird way. If white light goes through a prism, a rainbow will come out because the white light bends. Prisms are bended glass, and white is actually a mix of every color. All things that are white reflect all colors, and so we can see this mix of colors as white. And the prism just separates those colors out so we can see them all. Now, plants do not grow well in green light because plants are green, and so they mostly reflect all green colors. That is why this is so low on this rate of photosynthesis graph.
This is a picture of a chloroplast. In plants, chloroplasts are where photosynthesis takes place. The outer membrane is the membrane shown here in green. The inner membrane is shown by this green and white inside. Both membranes help to control what enters and leaves the chloroplast. The chloroplast is filled with a colorless liquid called the stroma. The light-dependent reactions that produce NADPH are located in the stroma. Each stack here is called a granum. Each of the sacs contained in the granum are called thylakoids. The light-dependent reactions occur in the thylakoids. Chlorophyll A and B and carotenoids are located on the thylakoid membranes. Finally, the insides of the thylakoids is called the lumen.
Photosynthesis is the process by which plants and some organisms use sunlight to convert carbon dioxide and water into glucose. Plants undergo this process to synthesize carbon dioxide into organic material, which the plant uses for energy and growth. Photosynthesis in plants involves a green pigment called chlorophyll and creates oxygen gas as a byproduct. The oxygen gas is produced in the stroma of the chloroplasts. The overall formula for photosynthesis is water and carbon dioxide is turned into glucose and oxygen with the help of light energy. The light energy originates from the sun. The carbon dioxide and water used during photosynthesis are called reactants. Reactants are the molecules that undergo a change during a chemical reaction. Water and carbon dioxide are used in the Calvin cycle, which controls the creation of glucose molecules. They are both used in the thylakoids of chloroplasts. Glucose is the main product of photosynthesis and is synthesized in the Calvin cycle. Additionally, glucose is produced in the stroma. The light-dependent reactions produce oxygen gas as a byproduct. Chloroplasts are organelles only present in plant cells. This is where photosynthesis occurs. Inside of the chloroplast, there is a disc-like structure called a thylakoid, and inside the thylakoid is called a thylakoid lumen. This is where the light-dependent reaction takes place. Chlorophyll on a plant's leaves acts as solar panels, absorbing the light produced by the sun. Thus, this light is then used to create the molecules for ATP and NADPH. ATP is most like a battery. It stores energy for the plants to use, and NADPH is a coenzyme used in reduction reactions. The reactants of the light-dependent reactions are light, water, and carbon dioxide. The products of the reaction are ATP and NADPH. Photosystems are complexes of pigment and proteins specially geared towards harvesting light. There are two photosystems called Photosystem 2, PS2, and Photosystem 1, also known as PS1. Both photosystems contain chlorophyll to absorb the photons emitted from the sun. This is how the light-dependent reaction begins. A photon is absorbed by photosystem 2, then energy is passed inward from pigment to pigment until it reaches the reaction center. There, energy is transferred to P680, boosting an electron to a high energy level. The high energy electron is passed to an acceptor molecule and replaced with an electron from the water. This splitting of water releases oxygen. The high energy electron travels down an electron transport train, losing energy as it goes. Some of the energy released results in a concentration gradient. As the hydrogen ions flow down the gradient into the stroma, they pass through the ATP synthase, driving the production of ATP. The electron arrives at the photosystem 1 and joins the chlorophyll in the reaction center. When light energy is absorbed by pigments passed inward to the reaction center, the electron is boosted to a very high energy level and transferred to an acceptor molecule. The missing electron is replaced by a new electron from PS2, and the high energy electron travels down a short second leg of the electron transport chain. At the end of the chain, the electron has passed to NADP+, along with the second electron from the same pathway to make NADPH.
Plants need carbon dioxide for the Calvin cycle. They get it through their stomata. However, if a plant keeps its stomata closed on a hot day in an arid environment, the plant will lose water through the stomata. If the stomata is closed, oxygen will build up in the plant, reducing the efficiency of the Calvin cycle. This happens because Rubisco binds with both carbon dioxide and oxygen. But if it binds with oxygen, then the plant can't bind with carbon dioxide. The binding of Rubisco and oxygen leads to a phenomenon known as photorespiration. Photorespiration is a problem because plants can't do anything with the oxygen, decreasing the plant's efficiency. Cam plants, which include pineapples and jade plants, have evolved to deal with photorespiration well in hot and arid environments. This picture shows a stomata in a cam plant. Cam plants only open their stomata at night when it's cooler. This stops them from losing as much water through their stomata. During the night, the plant takes in carbon dioxide and turns it into malic acid. It then stores the malic acid in vacuoles like this one. Then, during the day, while the stomata is closed, instead of taking in carbon dioxide, the plant can use the malic acid to create carbon dioxide. It then uses this carbon dioxide to run the Calvin cycle during the day, while its stomata is closed, to produce sugars. This makes cam plants different from C3 plants because they close their stomata each day and open it during the night. C4 plants have evolved in a different manner to deal with hot and arid environments. One C4 plant is corn. C4 plants take carbon dioxide in, but then use enzymes to turn it into 4 carbon molecules, which are then moved to bundle sheath cells. These cells have no oxygen in them, so oxygen buildup isn't a problem. Carbon dioxide is extracted from the 4 carbon molecules in the bundle sheath cells and then introduced to the Calvin cycle. This makes it different from C3 plants because it moves carbon dioxide before fixing it. It is also different from cam plants because its stomata is always open. However, cam and C4 plants are similar because they both take in carbon dioxide when they can get it when they can get it, then create a chemical out of it, which is then introduced to the Calvin cycle without waiting for the carbon dioxide to diffuse into the cell. Both CAM and C4 plants also require more energy than normal C3 plants.
The ATP and NADPH formed by the light-dependent reactions contain an abundance of energy but are unable to store that energy for more than a few minutes. During the light-independent reactions, also called the Calvin cycle, the ATP and NADPH that were produced in the light-dependent reactions are used as the reactants of the Calvin cycle to produce high-energy sugars. These sugars are the products of the light-independent reaction. This all occurs inside of the stroma. The carbon cycle happens in three steps: carbon fixation, reduction, and regeneration of RuBP. Carbon fixation is when 3 CO2 molecules enter the Calvin cycle from the atmosphere. This 3 CO2 is then made into 3 PGA by breaking the CO2 down by using ATP-, which is then made into ADP. The next step is reduction. ATP and NADPH use their stored energy to convert the 3-carbon compound 3-PGA into another 3-carbon compound called G3P. This type of reaction is called a reduction reaction because it involves the gain of electrons. A reduction is the gain of an electron by an atom or molecule. Regeneration of RuBP is the last step. One of the G3P molecules leaves the Calvin cycle to contribute to the formation of the carbohydrate molecule, which is commonly glucose. Because the carbohydrate molecule has 6 carbon atoms, it takes 6 turns of the Calvin cycle to make one carbohydrate molecule, one for each carbon dioxide molecule fixed. The remaining G3P molecules regenerate RuBP, which enables the system to prepare for the carbon fixation step. ATP is also used in the regeneration of RuBP.